Okay, so let me just transition. I'm going to do my best to not get emotional on this one, just because this story kind of hits home. My point with this one is leadership matters. Let me just give you a hint in aviation. It is never, ever good to have your photo up like this on a slide that I'm about ready to when you're telling a story. Okay, it usually means one of two things, and you'll see what I mean here. So this is John Carco. He was a colleague of mine at Icon Aircraft while I was a chief pilot. He is a brilliant guy. He's responsible for designing 34 different aircraft, including the Icon A5, which is a plane you'll see here again in a second. And this is Charlie Seaver, new colleague, had only been on the job for a week. Hadn't even moved his family up, 2 small kids, wife, hadn't even started the job. Or he had just started the job that Monday, and this is like Wednesday of what happens with this story. So John, having designed the plane, takes out Charlie, and Charlie is the director of engineering. So they're about to formulate this partnership about how do we get this plane manufactured and out to the market. So John wants to take him in the plane, show him the awesome plane, talk to him about it, show it to him firsthand so he can experience it. So they went flying out there at what's called Lake Berryessa. You're probably familiar there, Michael. So this is Lake Berryessa, the bigger part of the lake. And typically we go in there, we fly over this dam here, and we're flying along this canyon. It's wider than it looks like here on the Google Earth. But John and Charlie were flying up this canyon here, and I think my name's on the bottom of the National Transportation Safety Board investigation of what happened here, and I'll show you the pictures of what happened. I think they just got into a conversation, and I think that conversation caused John to go straight up what's called Little Portuguese Canyon here instead of turning left and going to the bigger part of the lake. So this is what happened, having gone up the lake in the wrong direction. I was sitting at my desk. I got a phone call from the Air Force because they manage the satellite system that picks up the emergency locator transmitters. And those only go off when they have a high G-force hit, typically what happens when a plane hits. So weren't able to reach them on the radio. I jumped in the plane, flew up there. I was the first person on the scene. And this is what I saw. Saw a couple first responders that got up there and trying to coordinate some rescue efforts. The first responders initially brought in an air ambulance helicopter, and while I was out there, they told the air ambulance helicopter just to go away. That only happens because there were fatalities. So, so here's 2 colleagues. It was under my watch. I commanded a fighter squadron in combat. I never lost anybody. I'm in this job for about 6 months, lost 2 colleagues right away. So my point with this is when leadership really matters, right? It's not when things are easy, things are great, you're a Smythe chapter winner, things are going good. Leadership really matters when things are going awry. So in this case, flew the plane back. As soon as I got out of the plane, hit a lot of people. People knew that the emergency locator transmitter was going off, and they could just see it on my face. And you could just see people in the company were just breaking down. I mean, they just lost 2 colleagues. It was horrible. It's like one of the most challenging professional days I ever had. But that's, getting back to my point, that's when leadership really matters. Someone needed to step in and direct the company and direct the team to do the right things, because there's a lot of other things that need to happen, contacting these team members' families, doing all that type of stuff, consoling the grieving colleagues that you have. Not fun, but someone needed to do it. And I think each of you guys will hopefully not have to face an experience like this, but it doesn't need to be a big incident. And I'll show you a couple other photos here. You're going to be like, wow, Shane, no wonder you're not at this company anymore. This crash had happened right before that. That's also bad. Nobody got injured on this one. One of the guys had a mechanical failure. He was able to land the aircraft safely. Actually, no damage happened to the aircraft there. Anybody familiar with Roy Halladay, baseball player? You guys recognize that photo? That's Roy Halladay. So he was a client of ours. So Roy Halladay, the investigation's not out, but that was his crash. So I think the toxicology came out. He was on some amphetamines, as well as he had a BAC as well too. So, as bad as that other story was in this job, it kept getting worse, right? And my point with this is, it doesn't have to be as bad or continue to get bad as this. In terms of leadership matters, each and every single one of you are faced with those opportunities day by day, or even the small things where you have an opportunity to do the right thing, to not be a bystander, to step in, grab that brother, put your arm around him. That's when leadership really matters, is the day by day stuff. But if you get these big opportunities, be the first out there, be the first to step in, be the first to lead. That's the stuff I feel like Pi Kappa Alpha set me up fairly well for. Was I had a bunch of opportunities when I was in school, but my success in the Navy, I think my success was really as a foundation of what I learned there at Pi Kappa Alpha. So try to change it to something a little more positive here. But I wanted to relay that stuff because I remember in the beginning I said I want to tell you guys stories about my successes and failures, and that's probably one of my biggest failures I had. So this is what I do now. I work for a company called Aeroflight. I'm the general manager. We do aerial firefighting services, so we're out there fighting the campfire right now. Down there in Chico, it burned through that town called Paradise, burned over an entire town 2 days ago down there in California. Back to being part of something bigger than yourself. I think I really like this job because it's just like the military, just like I felt like in Pikes. I'm part of something bigger. We have a mission to defend people, defend property. Here's a picture of a CL-415. It's a water bomber. Obviously, there's a bunch of water coming out there. Here's another RJ-85. And I love going to this job. Every single day, I drive to work with a smile on my face. And I'm able to do that because I got really, really good people that work on this team. I look at my entire job as setting my team up for success. I remove barriers from them. I enable them, give them resources to do their job. And this is where, kind of dovetailing off the leadership thing, this is what makes this job so fun for me, is having these great people. A little humble brag here, but we just got voted one of the best places to work in the Inland Northwest. It had nothing to do with me as the general manager. It had to do with people, like-minded, working together, looking out for one another, taking that time to train each other, to do things right. This is where culture really, really matters. I'll tell you, as a leader, the most important thing I do as a leader is to drive culture. Not just any culture, but a positive culture. A culture that drives people to look out for one another, to set an environment where you can learn from one another, an environment by which people can grow and mature and become better at what they do. That's the importance of culture. So I'm lucky to have a company that does so well at this, but this was back to the days of Pi Kappa Alpha, having a positive culture where we looked out for one another. That's so important, because if you have a bad culture in your chapter, you have a bad culture in your company, things are not going to go well. So when you've got that positive culture, your company, your chapter is going to be successful. And if you've got a poor culture, it's going to be exactly the opposite. So hopefully you guys, how many of you guys feel like your chapter's got a good culture? Most of them. That's good. The thing I'll leave you with, though, is good culture just doesn't happen overnight, and it's not something you can rely upon or rely upon the fact that it's always going to be there. I always give this analogy of good culture is like pushing a boulder up a hill. You always have to constantly be working at it, keep pushing, or that the moment that you give up on that boulder is going to slide back down on you. Okay, and that's where you can lose that opportunity to have good culture. So last small story here, and I'll just kind of open it up for questions. This is Spokane without snow, but that was this summer. There's a fire there called the Beacon Hill Fire. And really proud of my team there. There's a fire that was threatening a bunch of houses there. And again, having that good culture and a team that wants to be bigger than something themselves, have the mission. There's a bunch of the planes there defending Spokane proper. And that just is about a mile away from where we sit today. So again, I look at my job. It's awesome seeing my team out there kicking butt. I wish I could take credit for it, but I very much look at my job as like I'm the coach, sitting on the sidelines and just love watching them go out there and just kick butt. So tying it all together, there's all the themes I covered along the way. And I hope through my stories that it's at least somewhat entertaining. But I really would say that my success, both personally and professionally, really stems from my time there at Pi Kappa Alpha. And so it's one of the best decisions I ever made. And again, I trade positions with you guys in a heartbeat to go back there and live that again. So enjoy it while you're an undergraduate. But just know that Pike is it's a lifelong thing. Not only lifelong friends, but I gave my story there about how Pike's kind of helped me out along the way too when I transitioned out of the Navy. I really enjoy the fact that I was a Pike, and it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me, guys. So what questions do you guys have for me?